Other big story in Washington, D.C. today is that major meeting. It's going to happen in less than 2 hours at the White House. President Obama opening talks with the top 4 congressional leaders on how to avoid the looming fiscal cliff. The House Speaker, Boehner, Minority Leader Pelosi, Senate Majority Leader Reid, and Minority Leader McConnell will all be there together, trying to work on a plan that they need to have in place by the end of the year, or else, and the or else is we'll see some rising tax rates and some sweeping cuts. Joining us this morning to talk about that is Alabama Republican Senator Jeff Sessions. He is a ranking member on the Budget Committee. It's nice to have you with us, sir. Thank you for talking with us.
Thank you, Soledad.
You have said, I believe, that you're not all that happy with this meeting that is happening. Why would that be?
Well, a group of the leaders, I guess they'll have a good get-acquainted meeting over at the White House today. We've gone 2.5 weeks since the election. No plans have been laid out. Nothing has been done. The fiscal cliff is looming. We just recessed last night for another 10, 11 days in the Congress. So nothing's being done, and you would think that the president would have a firm plan through his Treasury and the Commerce departments about how to handle the problem, and we'd be further along than we are today, that's for sure.
So I think it's just about 10 days since the election, but, you know, I think for voters, there's a sense that nobody's
But this
acting.
is a looming crisis, Soledad, that's been there for a year. You know, we've been seeing this coming. I think all of us deserve some criticism, and I do believe the president should have been leading more, too.
Okay, so then
if he's not engaged, we're not going to get very far.
What's the fix, do you think? You know, because I think from watching it from the outside, since I'm not in Washington, D.C., you get this sense that nobody's acting, right? That the Senate has to move in some way, the House has to move in some way, the president has to move in some way. Where do you see this conciliatory tone, which I think is kind of nice and hopeful, actually come into some real resolution?
Well, there's some differences, but the problem is we're going to end up just like we have for the last 3 or 4 of these crises. We're going to end up with a group of people meeting in secret, probably on Christmas Eve or December 30th. We'll end up with some sort of bill dropped in the Congress that the American people will have no real input in, won't be able to understand the details. We'll be told it has to pass before the deadline or we'll have a crisis, and everybody, it will somehow be shoved through the Congress. This is not the way the Senate ought to be operating, or the House for that matter. We should be talking about these issues for weeks, for months. The challenges that we face, the challenge of our time is unsustainable debt and lack of economic growth. The economy is declining and not growing. So we've got some real challenges, and I just think the Congress has not met its responsibility. Senator Reid, our leader, should have allowed this debate to occur. And let us all have to stand up and be accounted.
Okay,
how much taxes do you want to increase? How much spending do you want to cut? Defend it publicly, not these secret meetings.
Some folks would say to talk about the past is like closing the barn door after your horses run out. So let's put that off the table. Let's talk about moving forward. There are weeks, right? We got 46 days till the fiscal cliff really hits us. So you could be having those exact conversations. We talked to Peter Orszag earlier today.
We could be doing that today. We could have been in session today. We should have done something this week instead of a very small sportsman's bill. We could have been talking about the challenge of our time. It's time for somebody to say that the leadership in this Senate is not performing its duty. This country is in danger, and all they want to talk about is small bills and secret meetings.
Let me play a little bit of what Peter Orszag told us earlier this morning. He was talking about where he sees potentially a deal could happen.
A deal here has to involve 2 components. One is on revenue, and there is revenue that you can get from cutting back on deductions and exclusions, but I think, to my mind, the deal here is that marginal tax rates go up a little, maybe a percentage point or 2, and maybe you raise the $250,000 threshold up a bit. So will the House Republicans really blow up a deal if the threshold is $1 million just to make it up and the marginal tax rate increase is 1 or 2 percentage points?
You know, Senator Sessions suggests, and I'd love to ask you, Senator Sessions, that we should be having this debate in public, right? We should start today. So let me ask you then, coming out of listening to Peter Orszag, does that sound like something that hits within the bullseye or the target that you could accept come either today or the end of the year, some kind of deal that sounds like what Peter Orszag just presented?
We need to be sure the American people should not be asked to send another dime to this dysfunctional government until we show, and the president shows, a commitment to reforming the abuses and waste that's going on. We haven't had any real reform of government programs in decades, really, to my knowledge. It's time to redo that, and we can make a difference. So those kind of commitments all have to be part of this package. I'm not going to dismiss what Mr. Orszag says, and we've got leaders that are going to be meeting there that lay out outlines, and I'm not going to enter into negotiations today. I know what I believe. I believe we don't have to have more tax revenue. I believe we can control our debt and get us on a sound path through fiscal responsibility. Others will see it differently, and we'll just have to debate that out.
Senator Jeff Sessions is a Republican from Alabama. Thank you for talking with us this morning. We certainly appreciate your time.